So this is our last session before Christmas, so happy Christmas everybody.
Cheers.
So we've got 2 weeks off now, and then when we come back, the project I've got lined up is urban scenes. So start off fairly simply with buildings, drawing buildings, and then take it on from there. So that's what we've got planned. I sent the programme out, but one or two people said they couldn't open it up, so I'll do that again this week with this week's email. So you'll get a programme for next year, and if you want to put any feedback or any alterations or additions, I can do that ongoingly. Okay. Yeah, I thought I'd talk a little bit about display today, and I brought, as you can see, I brought a big collection of paintings in with really showing different frames. Also, I thought I'd maybe talk a little bit about boards as well and painting surfaces, because we were having a bit of a conversation last week about different surfaces. So I just brought in some of the ones I use. So as I was saying last week, most of the time I use MDF board, which is just from the wood merchants, and I tend to use all different thicknesses really. That's probably about the thickest I would use, and that's 6mm thick. And I tend to use that for bigger paintings. This bit was just an off-cut that was left over, but that is quite good for if I'm working a bit bigger. And then I've got 4mm and 3mm, which are the ones that I mostly used. But this year I've started using these very thin ones as well, just because it's a bit lighter. So this is actually picture frame backing board. It might be hardboard that actually rather than MDF. You can probably buy this from a picture frame shop, but it'd be like a whole sheet. Another shop in the framing shop next to Lawrence and Matthews in Queens Road used to sell this. I don't think you still buy it, but they might sell you like a sheet. They might be able to chop it up for you, possibly. I don't know if they still do that. I know they did that at one point for people. But yeah, they're the surfaces I tend to use, which seem to work really well. This was just like canvas, and I had to go just sticking it to a bit of foam board. So this was me trying to go really lightweight. When we went to Scotland and we were doing a bit of painting last year, and had to pack everything in suitcases, so I couldn't carry too much weight. But I'm not so sure I like the canvas texture quite so much. I tend to use this for bigger paintings, sort of quick demos and things like that for art clubs. But I find that a little bit rough on this scale really. I quite like to work a little bit smoother. The other kind you can buy these are like ready-made painting boards, but these are reasonably expensive. They're quite good quality ones though. So these are Bella Archie ones from Jackson's. I can't remember if this is £3 or £4 or something like that. But it is MDF, but it's got like a thin, sort of nice tight weave. It's quite a smooth weave, so it's quite nice because you've got just a little bit of tooth to hold the paint, but it's not too big a texture to sort of disrupt it really. So I've used one of those so far, and I've just never got around to using this one, but I think they would be quite nice. Sometimes it's quite nice to have a really nice weave, tight weave, rather than a really thick sort of canvas like that. So that's the range of boards that I tend to use. And partly it's so that they'll fit in here, and so that was it's just nice to have something we'll carry in there. Moving them around. In terms of the frames, obviously most of these I made myself. This is a ready-made one, which I got I think I got this from the range, and it was really inexpensive. They're about, I think it was a £5 or something like that, or £10. It was really cheap, but I think they look quite nice. I can't remember if the mount came with it or whether I bought the mount separately.
I bought them with the mount, but
yeah.
You can buy separate mounts as well.
You can, can't you?
If
Yeah.
your frame that you choose.
Yeah, so that's quite good being able to do that. It is, I think it's made out of probably MDF with like a plasticky wood effect look. But for things like sketches and prints, I'm quite happy to frame them like that. And it's just nice and easy. What you find is
nice with the painting as
Yeah,
well.
the
The
colour,
colour of
yeah.
the frame really complements the painting.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
It works well with this. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
this is just one of my sketches, but I think it works quite well with it. Yeah.
It's nice with the border as well, because I think you see the picture more, do you think?
Yeah, I think for things like sketches and watercolours,
Mm.
you need, well, most people do put some sort of mount.
Yeah.
Unless you're putting quite a broad frame on, they get a bit lost if you just framed right up to the edge.
Yeah.
So for a sketch or watercolour or print or something like that, that's ideal. So as I say, I've used these for my sketches and I've sold them like this. You know, in the past people have bought them like this, and also sometimes I've done some prints, so-called prints. I should tell you, John, one of my students when I used to have a Wednesday class, one of my students told me about this company, Kadinsky, and this is like a sample pack I got from them, but they do mounts, and you can get different colours, and they do different sizes. They do sort of standard sizes, and it's quite good if you. I mean, I think I can't remember if it was 10 or 20 at a time I bought. It's like you need to. If you work in a standard size, it's quite a good idea to just have them presented nicely. I know some of you exhibit your work, Southend Art Club and things like that, and places where you've got a browser, this is ideal. And they do it like a kit. You can get like the backing boards and the mount and the plastic sleeve. And I think I might have got 10 or 20 at a time, but that might be where that mount came from. I can't quite remember. But I got all A4 size made up so that it suits my sketches or it suits my prints. And I found that was cheaper than buying mount board and cutting mount board up and trying to cut these window mounts, which are really fiddly to do. Even if you've got the equipment, they're still quite fiddly to do. So I found that and you haven't got the waste either then. I found buying mount board, it's really hard to buy a sheet and not lose half of it in waste. So that's I would recommend if you're thinking to go.
Can I just ask as well, what about the glass on top of it?
Yeah.
Because obviously your ones don't have glass on it, whereas that does.
Yeah. If you just want the frame, you could just take the glass out and
Okay.
just not use it.
Yeah.
You don't. For oil paintings, you don't, and acrylics,
That's,
perhaps like it works on paper, you might want glass.
It just sort of
Yeah.
protects it.
Yeah.
I've got
'cause-
glass because I bought my kind of range like that.
Yeah.
I kind of put 3 up, but I have put glass over it.
Yeah.
Now I'm questioning.
Yeah, because you get the
Yeah.
reflection, don't you? And it's a bit, depending on what you look at.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's really to protect, the glass is really to protect, like paper, it wouldn't get dirty over time. You can, just dirt in the atmosphere, dust, flies, all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I can feel the glass is quite dirty, so that would be going on the drawing. I don't know where this has been, but
Good with paint.
yeah, it will,
Generally, you don't put glass.
You don't, no, not on an oil painting, you don't need to. I usually varnish them, but even if you don't varnish them, you can just give them a little wash if you need to. If they look a bit grubby, just wash it off. As I say, most of mine nowadays are varnished. I don't think that one actually is. But yeah, I generally varnish them.
Would you wash just with water?
Yeah, just a bit of soap and water. Yeah. I've noticed sometimes you get little marks where flies have been on them and things like that. Yeah. Or
Especially if you hang them wet.
yeah. This is oil, yeah. So oil and acrylic is quite hard wearing, you find with those.
But you prefer to varnish them though?
I
so
do
you
now.
don't-
I didn't used to, but I quite like them varnished. So this one's varnished. I don't like them very, very, very shiny, but I like them just a little bit shiny. So with oil paintings, you're not supposed to varnish them properly for about 6 months,
Oh, okay.
but you can get what they call retouch varnish, which is just like a very thin down varnish, I think. And that you're supposed to be able to put on immediately. And I quite like the look of that because it gives it a bit of a sheen, but it's not too over glossy. What I find with the oils is that the darks will go quite light. The paint tends to sink into the surface a little bit. Well, yeah, I mean, if see, I'll just lit this one. You probably can't see that. It's not really shiny. So sometimes they sort of sink. They go a bit matte and a bit dull. So varnishing them, it doesn't really matter so much for the light colours, but it brings out the richness in the dark colours. I
Do they
quite
taste
like
good?
it.
that.
Sorry?
Do they taste good?
Tastes good.
I was going to
Yeah,
say,
so-
if you get those frames and you just want to use the frame, is that the boards, you can use the boards to paint. So
Yeah.
You can have a ready-made frame with the right style.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you could. Yeah,
Just put some gesso on it or something.
yeah,
Oh, right.
yeah. That makes it quite easy, doesn't it? Yeah. All these other frames are ones I've made myself. I started off just making them. I used to buy wood and just cut the rebates and things like that, but it's really fiddly, so I don't do that anymore. And I found that sometimes you get knots in them, and then the knots keep bleeding through. So that's not what I do anymore. So these older ones, I've tried to sort of add extra bits around them and colour them, just make them a bit more interesting, because I have quite a few of those left over. This sort of style I quite like of a what's called a float frame. So that one and that one are float frames. And I kind of prefer the black, so I'll probably repaint that one black at some point. But again, this is an older one I've made myself. But again, you can buy the mouldings, or you can buy frames that style. They're probably better for canvases. It's easier to attach a canvas than a board to that sort
How
of
do you
frame.
attach the canvas to the frame?
Well, if it was a canvas on a stretcher,
Yeah.
you could just drill through the back and
Oh, God,
screw it in.
no.
No.
Do you want to put it in?
So stick it in. But mine are just boards, and I literally just stick a bit of cardboard on and stick it to a bit of cardboard. And if I ever want to take it off, I just get a knife behind it and just cut through the cardboard. That's how I do it.
When you stick it, what's it called?
Just glue, wood glue.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah. So it won't come off, but if I want to get it off, I can take it out of the frame
Yeah.
and just carve through it.
Cool.
So, but it's a bit of a fabric. I like these. So nowadays, I try and frame my paintings like this now. This is how I do frame them. And I like this look. Quite a lot of, when I go to exhibitions in London, quite a lot of frames or paintings are framed this